public speaking. So, can you hear me? I really enjoyed your songs. I'm nice for a living. I'm just jiving away back there. Okay, my story. It starts a long time ago. I'm the oldest of 10 children, and I was homeschooled from grades 1 through 12. Yeah, my experience of, well, everyone's homeschool experience is different, but my homeschool experience was my parents chose a curriculum that actually ended up being a cult. Yeah, and I'm sure my parents, bless their heart, they were doing the best they could at the time with what they knew, and they still are. But that my story is still my story. And so cult teachings are like very strict rules and very crazy beliefs. Some of them might not be too crazy, to believe that you should have as many children as God gives you, that you always have to wear skirts and dresses, you can't watch TV or movies, that sort of a thing. And another thing that cults do is they have words that mean one thing to normal people, but they mean a different thing to the people in the cults who have been, trained what those words mean. And I could talk forever on that, I won't. So my experience coming out of that was that I was left with a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, like if they say, if you don't do this, God's going to punish you, or as a child, a lot of anxiety of being punished by my parents for not following along with the program. When I was a teenager, we moved out of province from Calgary here back to Manitoba, where my parents were originally from, and I started questioning beliefs. We started going to a nearby church, which also happened to be quite cultish, because the people did everything the pastor said, like dated the people and married the people that he said to, and got the jobs that he said to, and if you left the church, then you were shunned. So I started questioning beliefs, and so my parents sent me away to the homeschool cult's headquarters in Chicago to live and to work. And so I felt very rejected at that time by my parents, and feelings of not good enough. So when I got there, I was scared, because it was the first time being away from home, and I was very sheltered. They had meetings every day, and the cult leader, he traveled around a lot, but a couple of days into my stay, he wanted to meet me, and so it was just the two of us, and I was so excited to meet him because he was, on all the videos that I had watched, and at all the conferences, if you got his signature, you were blessed by God. So I was like, wow, I get to meet him. And to my surprise, the first thing that he said to me at age 14, he asked if I was a virgin. And I said yes, because I thought that's what the answer that he wanted, and at the time I didn't even know what that meant, because I was that sheltered. And so I don't remember much of the conversation, but after that I was transferred from working in the mailroom to working in his office as his secretary, one of his secretaries. And he gave off really creepy vibes, and yeah, like he would take me aside and be like, I don't like your hair. I had long hair, a spiral perm with like gel in it, and so it was like the wet look, and he's like, that looks rebellious. You should wear your hair in soft curls and put rollers in it. And I'm like, okay. So anyways, creepy vibes. I did whatever I could to be sent home from there. And then I was sent away to the cult's girls' boarding school in Dallas, Texas. It's a training center that they had. They had training centers all over the place, that cult did. And so my cousin was close to my age, my only friend at the time, because we had just moved out of province. She also was going to this girls' boarding school, and my aunt and uncle were dropping us off. And so when we got there, my aunt and uncle asked to talk to the leadership, and then told the leader that they didn't want their daughter rooming with me because I was a bad influence. And right in front of my face, and I was like, that made me feel really shitty. And experiences like that kind of stick with you, and you get those beliefs or these labels that you believe because other people have said that's what you are. Fast forward a few years, I left the church. I had some kids. I have 3 teenage daughters. Now they're teenage daughters. And then they wanted to make sure that they were mentioned. Okay, so I don't know. There was a long period of time where I was just surviving my life and like distracting myself with whatever I could so I didn't feel those feelings. And there were a few earthquakes, I like to call them earthquakes in my life, that kind of shook me up. The first one was that my parents changed religions, and that meant they now celebrated different holidays, and from that, my family, which was my identity, and my best friends, they all just kind of, it was like a fallout. Some just decided to do life on their own and not be with the family. Basically, different people were there was complicated, dysfunctional family dynamics. And I was grieving the loss of several of my siblings because I had pictured our lives together, you know, raising children and everything together. And then my 25-year-old sister died from cystic fibrosis. That was about the lowest I've ever felt in my life. And then my 21-year-old brother died by suicide from PTSD a few months after that. So I was devastated by that. And it really makes you stop and reevaluate life, because it's like nothing matters and everything matters at the same time. And a few life lessons that I learned during that like really low period of time was meditation. I learned like awareness, to be aware of my thoughts. I would just sit there and I would kind of watch my thoughts. Either I would imagine clouds going by and each thought was a cloud, or a train going by and each thought was a train. And to see my thoughts as separate from me, it took away the shame that I used to feel as a kid for thinking about a bad thought or anything like that. Just awareness of that we are not our thoughts and our feelings, but we are like the watcher of them. That was one of my big life lessons. Another one was boundaries. I learned boundaries. Like when you grow up with narcissistic, controlling authority figures, it produces a bit of codependency in their victim, and meaning that you think that you're responsible for their happiness, or that they're responsible for your happiness. And so I love Brené Brown. Her definition of boundaries is, this is what's okay for me, and this is what's not. And boundaries are not division, they are respect. And I like to picture boundaries as a piece of land with a fence around it and a gate, and that's a metaphor for my happiness. I'm responsible for my happiness, and everyone else is responsible for theirs. That was just a huge life lesson to learn. The last lesson I'll leave you with today was compassion. When I went to therapy, the thing I remember most about that is my therapist said, have compassion on yourself, you know, give yourself a break, because I would, you know, the stuff was bubbling up that had been stuffed down, and I would say, I'm so stupid, and she'd be like, be gentle with yourself, you're doing the best you can. And I really love that. You're doing the best you can. There's this quote by Jack Canfield, and it says, it really just brought me peace when I was going through all this loss, and it is to let go does not mean to get rid of. To let go means to let be. When we let be with compassion, things come and go on their own. Thank you.